I'm OG Veteran, and I'll be your guide to a different side of American pride. Hi, and welcome to Red, White, Blue, and Black. This show is to give a different point of view about what it's like being an American of color, especially an American of African descent, and American with a proud history of military service in his family. Today I want to talk about something that has been hit over the head so many times, but maybe I can bring it from a different point of view and not alienate, but to get an opportunity for people to really be enlightened. I want to talk about white supremacy, but I don't want to talk about white supremacy from the standpoint of the damage that it has and still does to Black people and people of color. I want to talk about white supremacy from the standpoint of the damage it has done to the very country that they claim they want to save. The same country that they claim they want to protect is really the country that white supremacy has done the worst damage to. Because the people that are involved in white supremacy, they're hateful people. And therefore, they have a tendency not to look much further than their nose at how their actions are going to affect the country. I don't want to go all the way back to the beginning of the country, 1776, but I would like to go back to the post-Civil War and how it started to affect, because this is where the racism really took effect. Because one of the things that people believe about slavery, for example, is this idea that slavery was a product of racism, and it was not. I know it's easy to get fixated on that because in this country, the slave trade involved people from Africa. So it did involve people of color, Black people. But the worldwide institution of slavery was willing to enslave anybody of any color and of any gender. So it wasn't just a Black thing. Slavery was going on all over the world and has since pretty much the beginning of time. And one of the things that can help us get past the idea of slavery in this country is if we can take it out of the context of being a Black situation for slavery and only Blacks, and put it into an understanding that it was a worldwide institution. Now, that being said, racism did grow from slavery in this country. We have to understand that there were millions of slaves brought to this country. So they were here. And when the emancipation happened, when the emancipation of slaves happened, it left millions upon millions upon millions of people free, suddenly free in this country. Now, a lot of people believe that there was no plan in place after the emancipation. There was no plan in place at all, a lot of people believe. But there was, and it was a great plan. It was called Reconstruction. Now, Reconstruction lasted about 12 years. Reconstruction lasted about 12 years until 1877. Now, some of the things that were looking to happen with Reconstruction were land ownership, education, integration into the America that we know. And it was going well. The literacy rate rose dramatically. It rose from like 5% to over 50% in a very short time. It started creating educated Blacks that went on to become business owners, politicians. And the one thing we have to understand is that this was something that the country got behind. It wasn't just Black people saying we're going to get together and reconstruct ourselves. The country got behind Reconstruction, and most of it came from the North. There's no doubt. Most of it came from the New England area, and a lot of it was spearheaded by the Quaker people in the New England area. They were the ones that spearheaded the abolitionist movement throughout the world, not just in the United States, but throughout the world. So we have Reconstruction that's doing well. Blacks are progressing. The former slaves are progressing, and they're finding pride and not being what was described as stupid, ignorant niggas. Because if anybody had the motivation to shake off that stigma, to shake off that interpretation of blackness, if anybody had the motivation to do this, it were the former slaves. They wanted to be so far away from that idea of being ignorant niggas because they had been told that all their life. They had been raised hearing that all their life. So they wanted to get as far away from that perception as possible. Reconstruction did deal with segregation, but it was segregation in a healthy way, in the fact that it was segregation that said, hey, you guys, we're going to help you. Now pick yourself up. And they were doing it. But there was a compromise from an election that created the first hiccup when it came to Reconstruction. The compromise was basically a situation to where the Republicans, they call it political betrayal, but the Republicans, they pulled the federal troops out of the South. The government itself. And the compromise happened because there was a dispute about who won the presidential election. And in order for the Republicans to retain their place, they had to promise, okay, we will accept the presidency, and the Democrats conceded it, but they made a demand, and that demand was, you have to pull the troops out of the South. Once that happened, there became a rise of attacks on these black enclaves, these black townships, the rise of attacks on them by the white supremacists that were also pretty much known as the Ku Klux Klan. The attacks that came onto these townships and onto these educational institutions in every way came from white supremacists. Now, white supremacists are always operating under this idea of, this is for our country. We're nationalists. We're trying to save our country. But they didn't have the foresight to understand that if you hold down millions of people, 4 million people that were a big part of the movement of the country forward, and if you hold them down, then you're hurting your own country. Because what happens when you destroy educational systems? What happens when you destroy townships and businesses? Then ignorance starts to rise. Ignorance in the form of a lack of knowledge. Ignorance not in the form of that you're ignoring something, but ignorance in the form of not knowing. So ignorance in the form of no education. And when these white supremacists did this, once again, they didn't have the foresight to understand, okay, how is this going to affect our country? Well, ultimately, the effects became lack of education creates people that can't be gainfully employed or in high levels. It also affects the self-esteem. It turns people into self-hating creatures. It takes somebody, when you have that much hatred towards somebody and those effects of racism like that, it turns people into someone that doesn't care anymore. Because see, during Reconstruction, the former slaves cared. They cared about themselves, and they cared about the country. And they were thankful for the country that freed them. They understood that slavery was a worldwide institution, so they were thankful for a country that was willing to fight to save them. They were thankful for the white people that said that we are going to fight to liberate you, to emancipate you, because what's happening is not right. Slavery is an abomination against man, against God. And so when we have that type of pride, it was helping the country. All they needed to do was just keep the troops in there long enough. But when they pulled the troops out, there was nobody to protect the former slaves against the white supremacists and the white racists, against the KKK, who wanted to do everything they could to destroy. Because it was at one time illegal for the black people to have guns to defend themselves. So they counted on the government to defend them. and the government pulled back, pulled the troops. Nowadays, the same people that are fostering this idea of white supremacy are unable to see that in destroying the black base and destroying everything that was positive to the post-war freed slaves, by destroying that, they did more damage to this country than probably anything that's been done. In its own way, they did more damage than any war that's ever gone on, because it has created a perpetual system of people needing to be taken care of, because the white racists, the white supremacists destroyed in every way possible the base that taught self-education, that taught self-motivation, that taught self-respect and self-discipline. So now you have a welfare system that's complained about all the time. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not just black people on welfare. We all know that. It's not just black people on welfare. But it does foster this whole perpetuation of an idea that we are to be taken care of. And I'm not going to say the government did it. I'm saying that this white racism, this white supremacy, denied it every chance they could. Every chance they could, they tried to trample it and deny it. So you got people on a perpetual welfare mentality of take care of us, take care of us, take care of us, and then it's pretty much take care of me. I don't give a damn about the rest of these niggas. Just take care of me. It also created a system of incarceration on mass numbers. When 12 or 15% of the population makes up 80+% of the imprisoned and the people in the criminal justice system, when that is made up by 80% of one people, but that same people only comprise 12 to 15% of the full population of the nation, then that should tell you something right there, that we are supporting a bad decision. And that bad decision was to pull out from Reconstruction in 1877, to pull out those troops, to pull out the protection. And this has happened in a cycle over and over again. Blacks start doing good. The Ku Klux Klan and the white supremacists, they rose and they trampled it down. And this went on. I mean, there was a time in this country that the Ku Klux Klan numbered in over 1 million members. That is a lot of people that are focused on the suppression of another people. So the government allowed this to happen, even to the point that there was a screening of a film called The Birth of a Nation. It was a Klan recruitment film, and it was screened in the White House. It was a situation that they were getting more and more traction. And instead of the government putting their fist down on top and putting their foot down on top of it, they let it grow. And they thought they were doing something worthwhile, but the only thing they did was set their own country up for failure. This rise and fall of the Klan and of the white supremacists is still going on to this day. It happened in the 60s. Every time that there's an opportunity to give even just a chance for black people to start moving forward, the white supremacists came out and put their foot on it. Now, you people that have been following me to any length of time, you know that I don't believe all white people are white supremacists. But I'm not naive enough to believe that white supremacists don't infiltrate good organizations. The original radical Republicans were radical in the fact that they wanted to abolish slavery. That's what made them radical. And the more radical ones wanted to declare that black people were equal. And the conservative Republicans, they were like, no. But there was no place in the original Republican Party for the white supremacists and the white racists. There was no place in it for them. And they did everything they could to keep it out. It was a known ideology that white racism has no place in our country, and we don't want our country to be the face of white supremacy and white racism. But the new Republican Party, a lot of white racists hide within the new Republican Party. And this is where it's a sad thing, because a lot of blacks that are conservative blacks We want to embrace the Republican Party. A lot of blacks want to embrace the policies of the Republican Party, especially the fiscal policies of the Republican Party. A lot of blacks want to the economic policies and even some of the social policies. You know, the policies that say people need to stand up and take responsibility, the social policies that say people need to work and to be part of moving the country forward. So a lot of blacks want that. But when you've been betrayed, and history documents it, when they pulled those troops out, it felt like a betrayal because what it basically said is, you're on your own, niggas. And they knew there was a large population of white supremacists in this country that was just waiting, chomping at the bit to destroy the advances that were made in those 12 years. And they were great advances made in such a short time. And they were chomping at the bit. And so, yes, we feel betrayed. It's hard. And I've been in and out of the Republican Party for decades. But it's become this situation of the Republican Party and the nationalist movement have become so heavily joined. And I really wouldn't have such a problem with the nationalist movement if the understanding that the nation isn't just comprised of white Anglo-Saxon Protestant males. If we could lose this idea that they are the only Americans and understand that if we want to be nationalists, then we have to embrace all Americans, no matter what we look like, all Americans, no matter what our religion. And we can't say that we're nationalists in this country and then we go against everything that's in the Constitution. If we can't say that we're nationalists and we go against the amendments in the Constitution that talk about everything from freedom of speech to freedom of religion. We cannot do that where all men are created equal. We cannot go against that and then call ourselves nationalists. So that's where this is challenges of bringing the educated and the positive blacks into the conservative movement. Believe me, a lot of us have a lot of the same views as conservatives. You know, as Chris Rock said it best, I know you black women out there that are working 2 jobs trying to take care of your family hate a bitch on welfare. Well, that's true because hardworking people just don't want to take care of somebody else for the rest of their lives. And we can't stand anybody who lives by this belief that the world owes them something. But once again, as a Republican Party, if you don't step up and say, I denounce racism and white supremacy in every turn, if you don't say it loud, if you don't eject your trash, because just like niggas are the trash of black people, rednecks and crackers and these white supremacists, they are the trash of white people. And until we are able to eject our trash, throw it out, throw it in the dump. But as long as white people kind of just like, well, you know, I kind of understand how they feel. Or, well, yeah, I'm not a racist, but I understand. No, there should be no understanding about it if you want to unite this country. But I'm telling you, there's some groups out there whose goal is not to unite the country because they know that uniting the country would mean that people of all kinds of different colors and ethnicity would come together as one. And that would say that, oh, what are we going to do with our white supremacist ideology? Where are we going to stick this? Well, you can start by sticking it up your ass because that's where it really goes. It stinks. You have hurt America quite possibly in an irrevocable way. We may not be able to come back from the damages done by white supremacy. I'm hoping we can. I pray that we can. But it's going to take all of us to stop and say, no more racism. You want black people to turn our noses up at our trash. Well, many of us are doing it. Many of us are voting in a way, and many of us are voicing it publicly, that we have no place in our life for ignorant niggas. We have no place in our life for ignorant black people and welfare mentality. A lot of us are voicing that. But if you want us to voice ours, you're going to have to voice yours too. because we're not going to trust any white people to the degree that you want until we hear you vocally say, I am against white supremacy. I don't believe in it, and I'm against it. We as a group, as a whole, because you got to understand, we have been thrown under the bus before. We've been thrown out over and over and over again. You want to know how we can fix this? This is what it's going to take. Throw out your trash, and we'll throw ours out. America, I'm OG veteran. I love you very, very much, and I'm not going to stop until we can come together.